In this screencast, I will demonstrate how to draw a clock in Inkscape version 0.45. In episode 34, I demonstrated how to manually make circular patterns or polar arrays. This time around, I will achieve polar arrays automatically using tile clones. So let's begin. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do is draw a circle. I'll hold the control key down to get a perfect circle here. And I'll make this just a little bit bigger. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And we're going to make this circle dark. And I'm going to turn off our stroke for now. Okay, I'm going to right click on this and duplicate it. And I'm going to make this one a medium gray. I'm going to hold the control and the shift key down, select our upper handle, and bring this in just a little bit. There we go. Next, I'm going to draw a Bezier path. I'm going to hold the control key down to get a straight line. And I'm going to change the stroke thickness. We'll try about a 5. And we're going to have to go a little thicker than that. We'll try a 10. 10 looks pretty good. And I'm going to change the length just a little bit here. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to take that. And I'm also going to highlight our gray circle. We'll do last selected. And I'll make that point to the top of the circle here. Okay, and I think I'm going to make that just a little bit thicker. I have to go with a 12. Let's see what a 12 looks like. And let's try a 14. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, I'll select both again and I'll line these up. There we go. Okay, now we'll just make this white. And I'll make this gray circle. We'll do about 50% transparency so we can see behind it there. Okay, now what I intend to do, I'll take this stroke and this circle and I'm going to group them together. Next, I'm going to go into our edit, clone, and clone tiled clones. I'm sorry, create tile clones. Okay, and this is where all the magic is going to happen. So let me just scoot this over a little bit. What we're going to need to do is we're going to put that on simple translation, and I'm going to put 12 down here because I want to I want to make 12 clones of this stroke all the way around here. This is going to represent the hours. We'll go into shift. The very first one, I'm going to put in a negative 100%. And for the shift Y, I'll put in a negative 100%. And for rotation, I'm going to rotate this every 30 degrees. So I'm going to highlight this group and hit create. And it's a little hidden, but what I have are 12 copies of my group. So let me slide this out of the way for now. And I'm going to window around just this group and I'm going to ungroup it. I've got to do it twice, so I'm going to do it again. Okay, now what I'm going to do is select my gray circle and I'm going to keep deleting it. I'll have to do this about 11 times, I think. And we'll undo that last one. And you see that I've got my 12 steps around here. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do, I'll zoom in on this area right here. I'm going to take this path, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to duplicate that. Okay, and just for now, we'll change its color to red. And I'm going to change the length. We'll go about halfway. Alright, now I'm going to take this stroke and this circle and group it together. Okay, I'm going to slide our Create Tile Clones dialog box over again. Now this time around, I'm going to make 5 clones. I'm going to rotate those at 6 degrees. Hit Create. Get this back out of the way. Let me zoom back out. Okay. Now I have to ungroup this again twice. And I'm just going to delete my reference circle. Keep deleting until you get to that last one. Okay. And we can get rid of that one. I think I also have one behind here. Let me do a shift and pull that down. Get rid of that one. There we go. Okay, now these are my second hands. I'm sorry, my minute hands. And I'm going to change each one of these to our white color. Okay, and I'm also going to change the stroke thickness. And we'll see what a 10 looks like. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now let's zoom out and take a look at it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, since that looks pretty good, whoops, I'm going to zoom in on this here. I'm going to take this, this, and this. Well, I got to select them. Hold the Shift key down and grab the circle and group them together. Now, what we're going to do, move this over, and we're going to pull open our Create Tile Clones dialog box again. This time around, I'm going to go back to 30 degrees. And I want 12 of these. We'll select our group and we'll hit Create. Okay, and we'll go ahead and ungroup this twice. There we go. And we're just deleting our reference circle. Excuse me. Okay, now you see that we have all of our increments around here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we need to make some characters. We'll do a 12, and I'll pick Comic Sans. Just kidding. Let's go down to the bottom here. And let's see what we have. Let's pick World of Water. That's a pretty good font. And let's see what 48 does. Let's go a little bit bigger. 12 looks pretty good. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and select our 12, our inner circle. And we'll line that up. And I'll take that 12 and just push it up a little bit. There we go. And I'll make it white. Okay. Now what I need to do is I need to get 3 more of these around here. So I'm going to select our 12 and we're going to create tile clones again. This time we're doing 90 degrees. But before I do that, I need to select our digit, our circle, and group them together. Now I can go ahead and hit, well, we only want 4 here instead of 12. Now we hit create. Slide this back out of the way. And we ungroup this twice. And we'll get rid of our reference circles. And there we have our digits. So now what I'm going to do on this is first I'll rotate it. I'm going to hold the control key down and just slide that around. There we go. Okay, we'll select our text tool, select our text, we'll put in a 3, our text down here, got a 6, select our text there, and we got a 9. Now, since I've used kind of an odd font, I'll just rotate this around a little bit more. There we go. And just push this a little closer. And we'll line that up. Okay. There are our numbers. Okay, the next thing that we need to do, we are done with I think tile clones. So I'll go ahead and turn that off. And I'm going to take this circle now, and I'm going to hold the control and the shift key button down, and I'm going to bring it down a little bit, and we'll go about right there, a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm going to take this circle, go to our fill and stroke dialog, change its opacity to full, and I'm going to make it black. Okay, I'm also going to give it a stroke, and we'll check our stroke size here. We'll give it a 4 for now. And for our fill, I'm going to give it a radial gradient. I'll edit the gradient. See what we get here. Just a little bit wider. There we go. And make this just a little bit darker. Oh, that looks pretty good. Okay, now what we're going to do is change the location of the gradient, and we'll move this down to the bottom, about right there. I think that probably looks okay. And what I'm going to do, zoom in on this, and actually I need to make my gradient just a little bit darker. I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is right click on this circle and we'll duplicate it. I'll make its color white, and I'm going to turn off the stroke. Okay, holding the control key and the shift key down, I'll grab this handle, and I'm just going to rotate it until I get it to the inside of the stroke on the circle underneath. Okay, now I'm going to take this and duplicate that. We'll change its color. I'm going to hold the control key down and move this down a little bit. I'll hold the control and the shift key down again. Make this just a little bit bigger. And I'm trying to create a moon shape. There we go. I'll select our red circle, our white circle. We'll go to path and we'll do a difference. Okay, that gives me my moon shape. I'll select our moon, and I'm going to give this about, well, let's see, let's try a 70 there. Let's give this just a little bit of a blur. We'll try a 1. And we'll give this a gradient. I'll slide this up. There we go. Make this just a little bit transparent here. And I think we should probably blur it just a little bit more. Let's try a 1.5. Okay, that gives us just a little bit of a shine. There we go. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is draw some hands. So I'll zoom in on this section right here, and I will right click on this, do a duplicate. I'll hold the shift key down, select our color picker, select orange, select our node tool, and I'm just going to fudge this. I want to try to keep it straight so that it's in line with that shape that that's underneath it. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to take this portion about right there with it. Okay, that's our first hand. Okay, now I'm going to select a second hand. I'll right click on this one, duplicate. We'll change its color. We'll do a shift. There we go. And we'll select our node tool. Okay, we'll put this about in the center. And this one here, this is going to be our shorthand. So I'll move it about right here. Okay. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is take both of these and lower them a step to get it underneath. Whoops. Let's try them individually here. Let's make sure this is to the bottom. There we go. Let's get this one and we'll lower it. There we go. And I'm going to grab that and just make it just a little bit shorter. There we go. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is right click on this hand and do a duplicate. And right click on this hand and duplicate. We're going to open up our fill and stroke dialog. I'll select this. And see here. I'll make it black along with this one. Okay. I'll give this about a 2 for a blur. We'll give this a 2. And we'll give this about a 90% there. And this one a 90%. Okay, I'll select both of these and we'll group them together. And this is going to be my shadow. Okay, lower that a step. Okay, that gives us just a little bit of depth. Okay, I think we're getting closer. Let me zoom up on this. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is we need to give this outer circle a stroke. So we'll open our fill and stroke dialog and we'll turn on our stroke. I'm going to give this just about a light gray, and let's see what a 30 does. That looks pretty good. Let's go just a little bit more. Try a 33. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate this outer circle. And I'm going to turn off our fill. And for our stroke, I'm going to make it dark so we can see it. And I'm going to go about a, let's try a a 12 for the stroke. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to hold our control and our shift key down, and I'm going to scale that down about right there. Okay. Now, let's go back to our fill and stroke. We'll make this just a little bit bigger. We'll try a 14. There we go. Okay, now for our outer circle, I want to make a gradient for the stroke. Okay, let me just bump this over a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Okay, now for the gradient, we're going to edit that. Go to a little lighter shade here, and for our darker stroke, we'll go just a little bit darker. There we go. And I will go light at the top, dark at the bottom. Looks all right. And for the inner stroke, we're going to select that same gradient. And we'll change its gradient. We'll go dark at the top on this one, light at the bottom. There we go. And I'm going to take the inner stroke, and we're going to give it just a little bit of a blur to knock that hard edge off of it. And it looks like 1 might be too much. We'll do a 0.6. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. It gives us just about what we want. Next, I'm going to select our dark circle, and I'm going to give this a radial gradient. And I'm going to select that dark circle again, and we're going to edit that. Okay, now we'll go dark on this, and on the other one we'll go a little whiter. There we go. And maybe a little too bright. Alright, that looks pretty good. Okay, I think we're getting close. Next, let's add a little pizzazz to this. So we'll draw an ellipse, and we'll turn off the stroke. And we'll make this white. And so we can see what we're doing, I'll slide this over. And I'm going to see what this looks like here. Okay, I think that probably looks pretty good. Now I'm going to rotate it a little bit more. Put it about right there. Okay, and I'm going to give it a gradient. And we'll make its blur. We'll tone it down a little bit, about an 80. And I'll move the gradient in. See what that looks like here. I don't want to make it too shiny. Okay, I think that probably looks pretty good. And I'll select the very back circle. We'll duplicate it. Open up our fill and stroke dialog. We'll make it all black. We'll make the stroke all black. We'll do a 2 for the blur. And we're going to change its transparency. Let's see here. We'll try about a 65%. And I'll bump it down this way. And I'll send this to the very back. Okay. Now, zoom in on this. I'll go up to our document properties and we'll turn off our border. And we'll zoom up on this. And here is our finished clock. Okay, now the brunt of this tutorial was just showing you how to use tiled clones to make these items across here in a radial pattern. Just like in episode 34, I did this manually by stamping. The tiled clones dialog box is a much faster way to get to the finished product. So that's my tutorial. Thank you for watching. I'm Heathen X.